Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of the official Ohio City live stream, Ohio City TV. I am Chad Biggers, and I am here with Whitney. Before we get to the fun videos, I wanted to talk about the artwork that we're showcasing this week. This is part of the watercolors collection from Chuck Del Papa. This particular painting is of the Great Lakes Brewery in Ohio City.
Hey, Chad.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. We're still having some hearing difficulties. You're going high and low.
All right. Well, I don't know what the issue is, and I don't know how to fix it. Wonderful time with live stuff. So all of the information I'm going to say is on the screen. So if you can't hear me, there it is.
That sounds better for some reason. When you said when you project, maybe it's better.
Wonderful. All right, so let's go ahead and move on. There's that wonderful picture from Chuck. And there's our wonderful faces. How you doing today, Whitney?
I'm good. I'm actually enjoying the rain. I usually am a person who would prefer sun over rain, but last 2 days were beautiful. And I think this is a good way to wind down the week. Me personally, that's how I feel. What about you?
I'm enjoying the rain today too, because I got so frustrated yesterday with all of the lawn care that was going on around me that I couldn't have my windows open because I had so many calls going on, and there was just so much noise. So I'm enjoying just hearing the rain today instead of lawnmowers and weed whips. So,
it's kind of peaceful.
Yeah. So today we're really excited. I'm really excited because we have a couple of people on. We have Tom McNair and Cory Riordin, who are executive directors of OCI, our boss, and Tremont West, my other boss, respectively. So we're going to talk to them about a couple of really great things that I'm going to leave it up to them to introduce. So do you think we're ready for that?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So there's all the information. Tom McNair, executive director over at OCI, and Cory Riordin over at Tremont West. And so here we go. How are you guys doing today?
Awesome.
Great. Terrific. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being on.
Sorry about the hummus sound there for a second. That's my
okay. I was wondering.
That's my Slack notification coming through. Yep. No, that was real. Super fun times. So every time I get a Slack message within the office, my computer says hummus, and I closed Slack thinking it would stop, and apparently it did not. So now my hummus secret is out. Anyway, so what are we here to talk about, Whitney?
Co-Urbanize. It's a new engagement platform, and I'll let Tom and Cory go more into detail about it. Making sure that we are reaching out to as many people in the communities as possible. We're talking about a partnership. We're talking about community engagement and equity as best that we can do the work and reach as many people as I was saying before.
Wonderful. So let's go ahead and start talking about this partnership. Tom, Cory, you got one of you guys, or both of you, want to talk a little bit about the partnership between Ohio City and Tremont before people start wondering why you're both on the screen at the same time?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I'm happy to start that off. Near West Partners, as what we're calling it, is really something that we have been working on together for a number of years and trying to figure out how we can best serve the people of the Near West Side in the city of Cleveland. I think it's not surprising, like a lot of other industries. We've had a lot of belt tightening to do in the nonprofit world and trying to find a way to maximize resources. And really, when we started off with a program called Near West Recreation several years ago, it was the idea that how do we identify the macro level issues in our community? Things like youth recreation aren't unique to either Ohio City or to Tremont, and doing those in an equitable way. But neither of us had the funds to be able to pay a full-time person just to do that work. And so we started collaborating on that. And so, with that idea, I think we found that there are a lot of those macro level issues that we can address. And eventually we've kind of put that into an umbrella that we're now calling Near West Partners. Maybe Cory, you can talk a little bit too about what this isn't going in. But, again, I think we're looking at this as how to identify macro level issues and combine resources to do it. I think many people know not just Near West Recreation, but Chad, you work between both organizations on safety issues. Safety is something that doesn't seem to care whether you live in Ohio City or whether you live in Tremont, right? And so, again, I think this is our organization looking for new and more ways on how to work together and maximize resources to best deliver services to residents and businesses.
Yeah, it's funny because I think, at least thinking back to where it really started, where that first nugget was I started at Tremont West 8 years ago, and right around that time, Tom's predecessor, Eric Wubser, started Ohio City T-ball. And I said, man, wouldn't it be great to see T-ball in Lincoln Park? It's such a great thing. It activates the park. It shows kids playing. So I pick up the phone. I'm like, Eric, I'm stealing your idea. We're going to do Tremont T-ball in Lincoln Park, but eventually we should talk about having a conversation, because if we just do T-ball in our own vacuums, we're never going to be able to do anything else. And Eric's like, I've been thinking about the same thing. How do I grow this thing? There's no rec in our neighborhoods. And really, so that was, to me, the start of that partnership. And it's really grown from there. And we learned a lot about where the macro level issues that we could address collaboratively were, while we also started to, and knowing our neighborhoods as well as Tom and I do, from years of being in community meetings and things like that, we also knew those micro level issues at the neighborhood level, at the block club level, that were very distinct to proud neighborhoods that did a lot of work to get the neighborhoods where they were, that needed to be taken into consideration in any partnership, that those needed to stay separate and distinct. And really that's community organizing, board level decision making, and things like that. So Near West Partners is committed, or Tremont West and Ohio City are committed to keeping those micro level distinctions, as well as very separate and distinct board decision making processes, while creating this other entity to look at macro level issues that we can address, and can only address with a large presence.
Yeah, and just to build on that too, Near West Partners will actually have a shared board structures of both our boards, right? As Cory mentioned, we think it is vitally important to have resident elected board members, and that those boards be making decisions on setting the agenda for each individual neighborhood. But we want to make sure that both of our boards are involved, and so the officers of each board will form the board of Near West Partners to help make decisions on these macro level issues and programs rollout.
And I'm sure the audience is very excited on how that sausage is made. So we could go on and on and on.
I think that gives us a perfect segue actually into why we're here talking about this new platform called Co-Urbanize. And so because of the partnership, because there's work being done in both neighborhoods, I'm assuming that the Co-Urbanize platform is working with Co-Urbanize platform is going to be part of Near West Partners, so that way it can be used to kind of standardize some of the way we do engagement in both of them. But before we get into answering that, let's talk about Co-Urbanize and what Co-Urbanize is.
Yeah, so we're excited to bring Co-Urbanize on. I think that anyone who follows what is going on here, knows that there's a lot of development that has taken place in both of these neighborhoods and continues to take place. And certainly I think that we are all aware of how the world has changed around us, with the global pandemic that we are all facing. And I think that it has forced many industries to figure out how to adapt, how to figure out to reach people in new ways. And I think that if you look at Ohio City and Tremont, these are two of the most active neighborhoods, maybe not even just in Cleveland, but throughout the country in terms of how residents want to be involved in shaping their communities. And it was vitally important to us that we found a way to continue to do that in the circumstances we're in. So Co-Urbanize is a platform that we found that allows people to get engagement in development that goes on. Our organization, Ohio City Incorporated, we utilize that, I think, really successfully last year in a retail study that we were doing throughout the neighborhood. So it allows it to kind of be a one-stop shop for information that you put in on a project that's going on. There are a lot of unique and creative tools in how to reach new and different audiences, as well as the people that maybe have always been interested in these things. And so, again, I think this is just kind of one tool that we're looking at as we look at a comprehensive virtual engagement strategy, but one that we think shows a lot of promise.
And I would just add that, during this time, we need to have all the tools that we can get our hands on to do community engagement and do community engagement in ways that we haven't done before. So this isn't, to me, meant to replace, it's meant to augment, it's meant to add to the conversation and expand. What we've seen in our block club meetings since we've been using Zoom and connecting with the block clubs through Zoom is that we've actually had more people attending block club meetings over the past during this time when we can't have a block club meet in a specific location. Why? Because people that have other things going on, they have kids running around and all that, they can go on Zoom, they can mute their screen, they can come in and out of the room as necessary. And so it's really expanded that opportunity. So again, this is a tool that hopefully we can incorporate long term, and a tool that can improve our engagement techniques and strategies. Same with Zoom. So even when we are able to go back to the library and have a community meeting, the library has a great interactive screen that we can utilize and utilize Zoom or whatever tool we're using, and people can join that meeting. So this is a real opportunity for us to engage technology and utilize that. Now, it has its own set of challenges because there are limitations, and people have limitations, whether it's access to technology or other issues that we have to be very cognizant, like we are in talking about our block clubs and talking about the limitations of any engagement technique. We need to recognize those and then work to develop tools that help us bridge those gaps.
Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Ohio City Live Stream.
So
I am Chad Bates. I am here.
I'm going to keep on talking. Corey, can you hear me?
We're going to talk about the artwork.
There's a couple of glitches here and there, right?
It happens. It's a love-hate relationship with technology.
I don't know where that's coming from.
Hey, Chad.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. We're still having some hearing difficulties.
Hold on.
Low.
All right. Well, I don't know what the issue is. Makes it a wonderful time. Yeah, I don't know where that's coming from. Is somebody else watching the Zoom? All of the information I'm going to say. Anybody else watching this that is on this call? Cory, Tom?
Muted.
I am not. Apologies.
It stopped. I think we're good.
I have no idea where that came from. That is weird.
Sorry about that,
Up,
everybody.
so I have no idea.
Okay, well, here we are. Technical difficulties.
Technology is super fun, right?
100-year-old house, there's ghosts. I mean,
maybe that's what it is.
I have a 5-year-old computer. My computer has ghosts. I like that.
Maybe. I mean, you're still.
Oh no.
Freeze.
Now we're locking up and freezing, and the internet is having problems.
There's other ways that we were going to maybe table at some high traffic locations where we can be visible. But can you talk a little bit about that, one of you, Tom or Cory?
Actually, hold on one moment, Whitney. Super fun times. My internet just dropped off. All right, so we're back up on Facebook again. Wonderful. So let's go ahead. I have no idea. Today it's been a mess.
The internet's ready.
So go ahead and start talk about what you were just saying, because all of it disappeared.
Okay, I think the internet's ready for Memorial Day as well. But I was just saying, Cory brought up a really good point about increased engagement and making sure that we are using as many avenues as we can, and also reaching out to people who are, stricken with the lack of digital access. So if you could just share with us a couple of ways that we are talking about addressing folks who have limited internet access or lack of electronic equipment.
Yeah, Whitney, I think it's a great point. And, both of our neighborhoods have poverty rates over 30%. We have substantial populations of public housing. And I think that one thing that we've all become keenly aware of in this pandemic is that digital divide, as you mentioned, has been laid bare for all to see. And Cory is right. I think that we're finding that on some levels, technology is allowing new and different people to become more engaged. The city is now going virtual with things like planning commission and more people are participating in that than ever, and all that's good. But there are so many people that don't have access to the technology, to basic broadband services, and it's so important that now more than ever, your input on these things, because Co-Urbanize will not just be a site where development projects kind of live and go through a process, but can also be a place for planning that's going to shape our communities for the next 50 to 100 years. And it's so important that we get everyone involved. So some of the things that Co-Urbanize offers that we're utilizing and really like and are continuing to build upon, they do have a function that allows us to have comment by phone. So if we're working on a planning process, we can make sure that we have information posters and community gathering places like libraries, like Cory mentioned, maybe public gathering spaces. Even in a project site, you could put up a sign that says, the project, here's the basic information. And it'll have a phone number where you can just place a phone call and leave a message with your thoughts, and Co-Urbanize will actually transcribe that and put it into our collection of data, which is great, right? They also have the ability for people to text message and weigh in on surveys that you can create. And we're always going to be kind of working with them to continue to develop and grow that side of things, because again, if we can't find a way to reach upwards of a third of our neighborhood on these things, we failed. And
Whitney, I would just add, there's nothing wrong with a little good old-fashioned door knocking. If you know that an area is going to be underrepresented in the comments, or the comments are showing an underrepresentation of a certain population or the direct neighbors, then, and I've said this in our Zoom meetings, that I'm willing to take those development packets and drop them off to the affected neighbors with the resources to comment by phone or whatever on Co-Urbanize, as well as what are the actual public review processes, which is Board of Zoning Appeals, Planning Commission, Near West Design Review, all of those. So as long as we're cognizant of the potential weaknesses that the technology presents, then we should be able to address that. Again, it's not the be-all, end-all. It's a tool that expands our ability to do community outreach. It doesn't. We still have to know that it could potentially have weaknesses and gaps.
And one thing I'd add to that too, Cory. I think one thing that both of our residents demand, regardless of what side of the spectrum they sit on, is transparency. And we think that this can be a great tool for increasing transparency. This is something that people, again, you're not going to have to be available only at Tuesday night at 7 to be able to participate in a meeting here. But on that site will live all the information. We can record meetings that take place and keep them on the site. We'll be able to take the city's WebEx for landmarks decision and put it on the site. So there'll be a full record of all the process that have taken place. And we'll all live on that site, and that stays even after the project is finished. So if people want to see the decisions that were made, the meetings that were held, all that will live there.
And and just one other point, I do think, business is going to return at the City of Cleveland, and we have to adapt to the fact that many of these things are going to be moving online and be held remotely. And we want to make sure that the community input is available to the city to make the best possible decision. And some of those things are fractured right now. And again, just identifying ways that we can bring people together, bring the vast number of opinions together on projects, and then get that to the city so that they're informed as they go through that decision making.
That's awesome, and I'm glad that there's so much thought being put into how this can be used as a tool for engagement and why it should be used. I think it's really important. You were mentioning, Tom, about how you don't just, I think it was Tom, yeah, Tom, you were mentioning you don't just have to be available at 6 p.m. on a Tuesday night. I love that this provides continuous engagement. I think, especially working in Tremont, I know that at least one block club in Tremont meets like once a quarter. And so if they're trying to get updates on a project, they get it once a quarter. And so with co-urbanized, those larger projects like that, you don't have to wait until your next block club meeting. You don't have to wait till the next community meeting. The information is always there. That does take me to my next question, though. If I'm a property owner, or I decide I'm going to buy some property and build a house, does that mean I'm going to have to get my project put on co-urbanized? What kind of project specifically are we going to have on?
Right now, the discussion between OCI and Tremont West has been large-scale projects, and we have a limit to the number of projects. Again, we are piloting this in our neighborhoods for large-scale development projects. Eventually, it could, and we hope it to also include community engagement strategies for community improvement project, anything that's going on in the neighborhood that we can adapt this to. But as it stands now, it's really 5 large-scale projects within a 3-month time frame. We will evaluate the tool at that point and move forward with where we need to be after examining that.
I think that's good. I want to follow up with what you were saying. Cory, you mentioned earlier that, any time you mentioned that the data will be stored in one location. It's like a central place for the development projects that will be on co-urbanized for people to provide their input. How is that information being collected? And then how are we going to disseminate that back to the community, specifically for people who, we were talking about the digital divide. If they're not online, how can we plan to get that information to the folks that did provide some input and participation and follow up with them, so that the whole purpose of this is to ensure that everyone's voice is being heard. And one of the ways that people can know that their voice is heard is being responded to if they give us their insight. I'm curious to know, for the non-digital folks, the text messaging, the phone calls, how do we follow up with people that participate in those ways?
So, I think, again, Whitney, I think that's, if we don't figure out a way how to make sure that we're doing that, like we have failed in this. I think that, this being a tool, we're going to make sure that everyone knows. One, as Cory mentioned, I think that we can go door to door in communities that are being impacted by this, make sure that they have the information. Again, we will collect all this information from a developer, or if it's a planning project, with the kind of the technical information, the who to contact. We can distribute that, who is out there. And one of the things that we really want to work on in this is being responsive to people throughout it. So if you're somebody that has digital access and comes in and posts questions in there, you'll be able to get direct responses from a developer or the planning team or our organizations if it's relevant. If you are one of the individuals that calls in with their comments and puts that on there, that is going onto the site, which we monitor. So again, we can have the appropriate individuals from our team take a look at that and get back to that person. And this really does need to be engagement. This is about sharing information, and that is putting information out into the community so that they can respond. But if people have questions, we need to get back to them. regardless of whether or not they have access to the website or not.
And Whitney, I would just say that's something that we've asked our organizers, right? Where are those weaknesses? What are we seeing? Here's a tool to use. It seems like a good tool. Let's put it to use. You give us that feedback so that we can adjust as a team what our approach is. And I would also say that same thing with the community. You tell us how this tool is working, and we'll adjust it to make it work better. So if you're not hearing from us and you say, hey, I put a comment, call, because I know one thing I know about our organizations is we take that feedback seriously, and we adjust strategies to incorporate that feedback. But if we're not hearing it, then and we usually hear it. So our community is pretty good at being in our ear and telling us. So I rely on that, though. I rely on hearing from people and understanding how these tools are being utilized. And I can see as much as I see great promise with this, I can see the challenges with how this could be looked at to manipulate it, right? And so how are we adjusting it to make sure we're getting true, honest community engagement and feedback, and expanding transparency, and not creating a tool that can drive wedges, right? It's got to be a tool that works together, and to make our community engagement strategy better than it currently is.
And one other thing I'd add too, Cory, I mean, this is such a unique opportunity. All the challenges that are being created by this, I think that you look all over the country, people are coming up with creative solutions for how to deal with this. And Co-Urbanize, I think, is a platform that was, really started with a much more singular mindset. I think they have seen this whole thing as a real opportunity for them, right? So typically they just did this as a way for developers to host their projects, maybe to cast a wider net of feedback. They're now very interested in working with us at the community level, hosting many things. So as Cory mentioned, we've had our organizers working through this with Co-Urbanize, and have really stressed how unique our communities are, with so many people on opposite sides of the economic spectrum and socioeconomic spectrum. And so we've made that clear, and they're looking at tools like text in, phone in with translation into the program. And that's just scratching the surface. Like, they're very vested in this at this point, and are becoming partners with us in really developing this tool in a custom way that, hopefully allows us to, I think, really show how you can do this equitably.
Yeah, and I'm going to follow up. I like how the both of you pretty much just turned it back on me and Chad and said, you're leaving that to the organizers and are trusting us to help guide this. And I appreciate that. So you also both mentioned that there are some old school ways that we can go about doing this, hanging flyers on community boards, attending resident group meetings and events, and sharing the information there. Door knocking, because there are a ton of active residents that do this type of thing on a regular basis. So we would have the support from the community in sharing this information, I believe. And it's also about relationship building. That's one of my number one things that I base my work on. It has to be that. I was recently reminded of a quote that I hadn't heard in years, and I've used it maybe 4 or 5 times in the last week, is that community engagement moves at the speed of trust. And I love that. And that is, it's so true. So as we've already developed relationships with residents and stakeholders, I see the non-digital side of this thing being a continuation, as you all have said so far, of the work that we're already doing. So bringing it together, they both supplement each other. How can we just frame it in a way that is beneficial for everyone that wants to be a part of it?
Great. I like the quote. It wasn't by Thorstein Veblen, though, who...
Stop with the Thorstein Veblen.
Sorry, Tom.
I want to throw this out there. I think everything that's been said is amazing, and we are running short on time. So I think unless there's anything after I'm done, I think this is about it. But I think it's also going to be really important for community members to be a part of this, right? Because a lot of them that do have access to this and do know this this information and know what's going on, they also tend to know their neighbors, hopefully, and so they can share information and have conversations and spread that word. So even though not everybody's going to be able to see or know what's going on exactly on the Co-Urbanize platform, I think this goes back to the speed of trust, Whitney. Like, we hope that residents trust us, but we also have to, as organizations, trust our residents to be sharing the information as well with each other. And I think that's really important that this platform can do that. So I'm really excited for that. Just gonna throw that out there. So that's it. That's all I've got. Any last thoughts before we say goodbye to our guests and go and wrap up for the day?
I would say thank you to the both of you and Tom, of course. And stay safe, stay healthy, everyone. Thank you to all our frontline workers, quite a few living in our neighborhoods, for everything you've done.
Thanks, Cory.
Yeah, and I guess I would say, have a safe and happy Memorial Day weekend, and always remembering the men and women who have given the ultimate sacrifice to give the rights that we have, and making sure that people vote when that time comes up, and also to be safe and responsible this weekend, dealing with all the issues that we currently are. Again, as Cory said, thank you to our frontline workers on here, and out of respect for them. If you see businesses or large gatherings of people that aren't following, the protocols in place, you can also always call the Cleveland Department of Public Health, 664-300, and make that known.
Can you say that number again, Tom? You cut out. Can you say that number?
It is 664-2300 to log any complaints. And again, keep everyone safe, happy, have a great weekend. And thanks for having us on.
Thank you guys for coming.
Oh, thank you. All right, Chad, it's the wind down.
It is just us again. Yeah, today has just been crazy.
In a subtle kind of way, though.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm at a loss, I guess. Just flustered and confused. I think I'm so excited for Co-Urbanize, though. I'm really excited for the potential that it has, and not just as a platform, but as a tool, like Cory had said multiple times, like as a tool to kind of enhance the work that's already being done rather than to replace it. And I love that.
Enhance is a good word.
We're in the digital age. Say that again. I'm sorry.
I was saying we're in the digital age, so sometimes we have to move at the speed of society to keep up.
That is true.
Do our best to share information that way.
Yep. Well, let's go ahead and get on to our final three. As always, we have our Ohio City text line on there. How has that been going, Whitney?
It's going great. So I send out a weekly notification or update or resource, one way to get in touch with things that are going on or stay up to date with those. And you are able to subscribe. Like I said, one weekly text Monday between 2 and 4 p.m. So text the word subscribe to 216-250-1919 and you will be subscribed.
Oh, simple as that. I think that's a great way we were talking about doing stuff like that's a great way to kind of get some of these updates from Co-Urbanize out, maybe. It's a lot right now. We're still getting it off the ground, but maybe something in the future. Speaking of Co-Urbanize, we also have our next big update. The Co-Urbanize, the very first project that we're having on Co-Urbanize should be live. I literally got the email during the broadcast that it should be live. So if you go to courb.co/cohatch, link on the screen as well as in the description, you'll get to go find out more about the Cohatch project coming to the site of the former Bounce nightclub on Detroit Avenue. Looks like it should be a really great project, and we're excited to hear feedback from the community on that. And go ahead with the last one, the COVID-19 stuff.
Yeah, so one way to also make sure you're staying up to date, we update the website as often as we can at ohiocity.org/COVID-19 to find out local information, resources, restaurants, and businesses that are operating, social service organizations that have services for folks in need. And locally, stay up to date at that website.
It's wonderful. It was great talking with you this week.
You too.
Yeah, I've got nothing else. You got anything else for our guests before we go?
No, that's all I have.
All right. See you all next week. I waved. You can't see the screen because of the slide that's up. So just so you know, I waved.
Have a good holiday, everyone.
Have a good holiday. We'll see you guys next week.
All right.
All right.
Bye, Chad.